Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be low interest, low effort, and eventually she ghosted me. Why? Well, I've got two emails I'm going to go through with you, and I think the last one here, the guy got ghosted. He's dating this girl for 2 months. He sent a picture. She's really beautiful. He said, but on their date, she was really quiet, kind of introverted, didn't say much, and kind of a bit boring. And then the last time he tried to set a date with her, she just completely ignored him. But yet he sees her in the gym, she smiles at him, but won't come over and say hi. And first guy, similar situation. It's just that what's happening is instead of her interest going up, what she's doing now, her interest is going down, but what she's doing is bringing and inviting friends on their dates. So obviously things are not going the way these guys want, and they're trying to figure out what the hell happened. So let's go through the first guy's email. He says, hey man, I've been following you for about a year now, and I have read and listened to the book right around 10 times. Obviously he's talking about 3% Man. Thank you for all you do. It's been a game changer for me. Around 2 months ago, I started hooking up with a girl who I have known for about 6 months. We were both dating other people at the time of meeting and formed a loose friendship, which eventually led to a date night and hookup 2 months ago. So I assume they both became single at the same time. There wasn't any cheating involved. The other thing is you got to keep in mind when you get involved with somebody that's recently out of a relationship, which I think the second emailer that is what's going on with that case, but when you're starting to date a woman who just ended something with somebody, there's a really good chance that dude is still in the background. And especially if you display weakness and unattractive traits and she spent more time with the other guy, she's going to be more emotionally bonded with him. So therefore, if it's a choice between you and him, maybe the other guy cleans up his act or whatever, she's typically going to bounce back to him. And so you have to be prepared for that. That's why when you encounter these situations is that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket and pedestalize the girl and then expect that she's going to become your next girlfriend. You got to live in the present moment. You got to take it day by day and respond based on how she's showing up today, not what she says or what she talks about, because women like that can be very hot and cold. They can be really into you, and it seems like everything's going great, and then all of a sudden they're just cold as ice. And when they're cold as ice, typically means they're starting to bounce back to the other guy because it wasn't completely over. And more than likely, it's not going to work out with the other dude. And that's why if you're just casually dating, casually hanging out, having fun, hooking up, whatever, you shouldn't put too much stock in that because you're trying to create the conditions, if you're following what's in the book, 3% Man, to where she's going to try to win you over and convince you to be her boyfriend. And unfortunately, most guys, especially in our society, are doing just the opposite. They have the attitude and the mindset of, oh, I hope she likes me. I hope I can get her to like me. I hope she'll choose me. I hope she picks me. Instead of having the attitude that women have, which is this person good for me? Should I be dating them? Are they a good match? They treat me the way I want to be treated? Well, I'll just see what happens. And so you're going to basically match and mirror the actions, or the effort, I should say. So if they back off, then you should back off a little bit. But what happens for most guys when you don't know any better is when the woman backs off a little bit, which typically always happens, they start to pursue more and call and text more. And this literally pushes her away and drives her back into the arms of the other guy. That's why it's so super important to create the conditions where women are starting to pursue you. So, with that said, let's get back to his email. He says, since then, we've been dating fairly steadily, following the once-a-week contact rule, and around date 4 or 5, I could feel her starting to slowly pursue me more, initiating contact that led to dates, sending me locations in the area on Instagram, liking my Instagram stories, etc. These are the types of things you'll see as their interest goes up. They call more, they text more. If their interest is low or they're structured, you'll never hear from them. And you're trying to weed those girls out anyway. So if you're 4, 5, 6 weeks in and the girl's never once in between dates called you or texted you, she's probably structured. And you want somebody that's natural, easygoing, easy to get along with, not a girl that's holding back and following a set of rules and trying to make you jump through a bunch of hoops. You want easygoing, easy to get along with, not somebody that's a difficult pain in the ass because she read the book The Rules or something along those lines. Or she's following some female coach who's basically learned the work of someone like me, and because they don't really understand it, they're basically teaching the women to act like men. And that's just going to turn you off anyways. And this is part of the weed out process. You're looking for somebody that's easygoing, easy to get along with, not a structured girl that's following a set of rules, trying to make you jump through her hoops and your own butt. It's not fun. On date 4, she asked me, "What do you want?" question, which I responded, "What do you mean?" Very smart. That's the right answer. She didn't answer that question, but kept pressing me to answer her question, to which I responded, "Be more specific in what you mean, and I can answer it." I never gave a full answer, and the conversation moved on. Well, it's like, what do you want? What do you mean, what do I want? I'd like a sandwich and a cocktail. What do you mean, what do I want? Maybe you say, are you saying, what am I looking for in the future? Where do I see myself in 5 or 10 years? Am I potentially going to move to the middle of nowhere, shave my head and my ass, and meditate all day? But what are you looking for? What do you mean? What are you hinting at? But a lot of guys, especially lately, last couple months, I've seen a lot of that. When the girl brings it up, the guy just kind of jokes and laughs it off and changes the subject, doesn't really get into it. And therefore, they don't really understand where she's coming from because they never really take the time to ask good, high-quality questions. But just the fact that she was kind of evasive and wouldn't answer the question, because remember, as the book says, whoever's asking the questions is the one that's running the conversation. So if you allowed her just to keep asking you questions, and you, in essence, gave up control of that conversation. That's a bad way to go. Women don't want control, and you gave it up. It's subtle, but those are the little things that communicate masculinity or femininity. And if you're trying to keep the sexual polarity the way it's supposed to be, you want to stay in your masculine. Things started to take a bit of a dip around date 6. She initiated contact, and I set up a date, to which she invited her friend and her friend's boyfriend of 2 years. Yeah, as the book says, until you're in a serious relationship, no group dates. Because what happens typically if the woman is doing that, unless it's really progressing fast and she's wanting you to be her boyfriend, she's either trying to involve you in her life, or more than likely in this case, she's bringing cock blockers along to get in the way of the seduction because her interest is going down. And so I would just say, well, we're still getting to know each other. I'd just like to, you and I hang out. If you'd rather go out with your friends this weekend, hey, then go do that, and we'll get together maybe next week or the week after. Her energy on the date seemed a little off. This is why you don't do group dates, dude. Because you could say something, maybe the girl doesn't like you, maybe the guy doesn't like you, maybe the guy secretly has a crush on her, and he just tries to cock block you. So you just never really know what the situation is when you're dating a girl and things are progressing, and then all of a sudden you're hanging out with one of her friends and her friend's boyfriends. You just don't know them. You don't know what the relationships are or what the history is, and you just open yourself up to potentially getting cock blocked. Especially guys that do stupid things like drink too much, and they say things and they do stupid things in the group, and they look like an absolute jackass. And then what happens is you turn our whole peer group against you, and now they're all trying to break you guys up. So it's just don't do that, especially if you're learning this stuff. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. She wasn't as affectionate as she had previously been. Well, because she's worried about what her friends think. And again, this is another reason why you don't go out on group dates until you're in a solid relationship where she's asked you to be her boyfriend. So what's going on here is she's holding back because she's worried about what her friends think. On date 7, after going out to a nice dinner, we went back to my place, and she quickly laid on the couch and started to fall asleep. So the other thing to keep in mind is when you see that, when you see waning interest, when you go out and you do a group date and she's kind of cold and not the same, instead of just setting a date quickly again in the future, I would push it out a little bit to see if that has a positive effect on her interest. Remember, scarcity creates value. And if you just went on a group date and her interest is definitely noticeably less, then I wouldn't be so enthusiastic about getting in front of her and setting another date quickly. I would make her wait. He says, after suggesting we go to my bed and call it a night, she quickly mentioned she should probably just go home as she had a busy day the next day and her dogs at home needed to be attended to. Well, was that an issue in the past when she stayed over? Probably not. Just shows she's looking to dip. She wants to get out. She's not excited to be there. And so therefore, she's in essence taking your time for granted. And when people take your time for granted, guess what? You give them the gift of missing you. Meaning you're going to spread out your next few dates. You're not going to do them quickly. You're going to do them further off in the future. And more than likely, he's saying and doing things where he's probably acting a little dopey, maybe pedestalizing her a little bit because he's thinking, wow, we're like 6 weeks in, she's going to become my girlfriend. Because again, his mindset is, how do I get her to like me? And he becomes too focused on that and starts ignoring that he's giving off the vibe that he wants something serious. He says, pretty soon after that, she called an Uber, gave me a kiss, and took off. She texted me a picture of her dog the next day, to which I responded with a picture of the hike I was on later in the day. She waited a full 5 days to respond to that message. That's not good. I responded 3 days later and haven't heard from her since. 5 days since the text, coming up on 2 weeks since the last date. She did suggest getting together with some friends for dinner next weekend in her last text. Again, she's bringing other people around because what it shows is her interest is dropping. And like most women, she doesn't understand why. She just knows that the chemistry is off, something is off. Her interest is going in the wrong direction. Maybe, again, you went out on a group date. You shouldn't have done that. You're violating principles in the book. Again, I see this all the time. I hear it in phone sessions. Guys don't think it's a big deal, but obviously it is. Because if you go out on a group date and her behavior completely changes after that, the group date didn't go well. This is why you do not do these. And this is what happens when you cherry pick and you just bend the rules. You're like, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go out on these group dates. When a woman's trying to get you to go out on a group date, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's because she's trying to cock block you. She's trying to put roadblocks in between you and seduction. And therefore, that's why you don't agree to, oh, hey, if you'd rather go out with your friends this weekend, that's cool. We can go out next weekend or whatever. And you do the takeaway. I feel her pulling away and losing interest, and I'm not sure where I went wrong. You shouldn't have gone out on a group date. It's pretty obvious. This is why you read the book 15 times, 10 to 15 times. When you don't know the material, it's not just the fact that you missed the group date thing. There are other things you're doing and saying when you're with her that are turning her off and making you look less attractive. And how do I know that? Because her interest is going in the wrong direction. And, us guys, we tend to be very egocentric, and we don't want to admit that we screwed up. We just say, oh, I was following the book. I did everything you said. And I was like, no, you didn't. I'm a 27-year-old entrepreneur, and she's a 23-year-old entrepreneur. Successful, driven, ambitious, and no shortage of male friends or orbiters. Again, this is why you should be cautious. A very pretty girl who has tons of male orbiters, dudes that she used to date in the background that are still trying to get another chance. That's the kind of thing you should be skeptical of. You should look at that and go, yeah, I'm not really excited about all that. That's why you're going to continue exploring your other options. And more than likely, this guy pedestalized her, put all his eggs in her basket, and was assuming that she was going to become his next girlfriend. And then he got sloppy. He went on a group date. And then when the last time he was trying to set up a date or talking about a future date, she's already mentioning another group date with other friends. So that's typically a sign of a woman with low interest. She doesn't want to reject you outright, but what she's feeling is she's less attracted to you. And so in order to slow down the romance, she brings friends along. And then as you saw on your group date, she's cold, she's distant, she's not as affectionate because she's worried what her friends think. And you wanted her to, instead of pumping the brakes on your date, you wanted to have her foot on the accelerator. A few months prior to dating, she ended a 3-year on-again, off-again situationship. Well, more than likely, the situationship is still going on. And this is why you don't pedestalize girls like this. This is why you don't get sloppy. If you're the prize, if you're the catch, you're not going out on group dates. At this point, in my eyes, the ball is in her court to reach back out and initiate contact and getting together. Yeah, she went pretty cold and really wasn't making much of an effort. He says, with that said, I'd love to hear any insight on here and where I may have gone wrong, what may be going on, and what I should do if I hear from her again. Well, when you do hear from her again, invite her over for dinner. Hang out, have fun, hook up. I wouldn't take her out or meet her out or do anything like that. Especially if she brings up another group date. Just say, no, I just want to, we're still getting to know each other and your friends are great and everything, but I want to spend time with just you and I. And if she is resistant to that, then that's indicative of low interest. So on to the next. Let's go to the second email. Greetings, Corey. Hope you're doing well. I have read your book over 15 times so far, but I have not been practicing enough. Yeah, if you read the book 1,000 times, but you almost never practice, how are you going to get better? Repetition's the mother of skill. It's great to have the knowledge in your head, but you need real-world experience. You need to ask women out. You need to go out on dates. You need to be involved in texting and calling and talking on the phone, seducing them in person. Because when you meet a girl you really like, it's a lot harder to do everything right and follow what's in the book, especially if you're trying to undo years and years or even decades of behavior that just simply turns women off. I've still made huge strides and asked out 70 women in 3 months. Well, that's great. Good job, man. Before this, I had literally never asked out a woman face to face. This eventually led to a first date with a 22-year-old girl called Jessica. He says, I'm 27 and I have been seeing her for about 2 months. She was easily a 9 in my book. Picture attached with her brother. Yeah, she's beautiful, definitely. She was really into me, a 6 to 7 on scale. More than likely, he probably overrated her interest because this is the one that eventually ghosts this guy. But he still sees her in the gym. I encountered her at the gym a couple of times. I barely said anything to her when asking her out. She just immediately volunteered her number. She even told me later on that she was trying to track me down in the gym. In other words, she was trying to get your attention. That's what they do. They put themselves in your orbit and hope that you notice them and do something about it. She also mentioned she had sort of given up on me since I asked her out about the 3rd time I saw her. On our first few dates, she was always laughing at whatever I said and was really touchy-feely, and we were making out the majority of the time we actually spent together. All dates I had with her ended with passionate sex. Well, hopefully the sex was good. In 2 months, I saw her about once a week. She never started initiating, so I called her about 5 days after the previous date, and she normally responded enthusiastically. Yeah, if you're dating a girl for 2 months and she never once calls you or texts you, she's either structured or following a bunch of rules. Or she's got some weird socially awkward thing going on. You want easygoing, easy to get along with. It seems she didn't really want to increase the frequency. That's something you should pay attention to. And that's why when you see if you're like a month in and you're doing 100% of the pursuing and she never once initiates any kind of text or calling, then go 2 weeks without. Skip a week and see what happens. See, don't ask if you normally every week call her and yet you're still getting her interest doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And this is what's scary for most guys to do. Because like, but I won't see her. It's like, yeah, you want to see what happens because you want her interest to go up. You don't want it just to stay flat and the same and spend 2 months dating the girl and yeah, you're hooking up and having sex. But you notice that there is no enthusiasm and her interest is low and it doesn't seem to be going up. So that's not a good thing. That's why the quickest way to get somebody else's attention is to remove yours. Scarcity creates value. And if you wait 2 weeks and then you call her up and you ask her out and she's the same as always, there's a lack of enthusiasm for some reason. Maybe you're just a rebound for her. Maybe she's just not that into it. You want enthusiasm. You want, hell yeah, I'd love to go out with you. That's what you want. You want excitement. You don't want, The main thing that disappointed me was that although she was really easygoing and friendly, she was not talkative at all and frankly a bit boring. Yeah, you can't fake chemistry. It's either there or it's not. If she had nothing to say, Well, part of it is that also he's like, man, she's so hot. But you go on dates, it's just when you're not having sex, it's the conversation is boring and dry. And just because you're having sex, maybe the sex was good. That's why she kept hanging out with you. But she never called or texted you because she just wasn't that into it. And maybe she wasn't over whoever else she was dating before you. She also seemed pretty insecure about her looks. Whenever I asked her questions, she didn't open up. Instead, she preferred listening to me. She mentioned she's introverted. Well, that's fine and everything, but do you want to be with a girl that never says anything about anything? You want somebody that you actually like listening to. And if she's boring and you're already bored with her after only a few weeks of dating, yeah, she's hot and her body's beautiful and the sex is nice. But when you're not having sex, you don't like listening to her, she has nothing to say. That's not the kind of thing that should cause you to be excited about spending more time with her. That's why you should be keeping your options open. He says, there were 3 weeks of time in between our 5th and 6th date. Well, things didn't progress. And you got to pay attention to that. During the 6th date, I noticed she was acting a bit differently. She laughed a lot less, seemed more distant. Yeah, if it's 3 weeks, so more than likely what happened was he's trying to set dates and she's not excited about it and was telling him he was busy, so he kept calling and texting every week. And eventually she went out with him again 3 weeks later, but it's noticeable that her effort is even less than the last time you saw her. So something's going on there. Maybe something he said, something he did, the vibe he's giving off, but the thing you can't ignore is that there's no chemistry, there's no spark, there's no enthusiasm coming from her towards him. He's just looking at the fact that she's really hot and he likes having sex with her. But other than that, she's boring. And this is why you get experience. Because if you had 4 or 5 other girls that you were dating, some of them would definitely have more enthusiasm with this girl. And if they're just as attractive, then what'll happen is you'll end up spending more time with them just because they make it easy to be with them. That's what you look for. This girl's making it incredibly difficult to be around her. And also, she left a bit earlier than usual. Just all signs of low interest. Her attraction's going down instead of up for whatever reason. She also didn't start making out with me as soon as she walked in, which she always did on other dates. Maybe she was on the rebound. However, we did have passionate sex. At the end of the date, she mentioned that meeting me felt more intense when there was more time in between dates. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I was a bit too eager after. More than likely, you were always too eager when you were with her. Because, again, this is the first time you ever asked anybody out in person, was when he came across my work. I was a bit too eager after and called 3 days later. She never responded to my call, and it's been 2 weeks now. I have not reached out and don't plan to. I still see her in the gym sometimes, and she always smiles at me or greets me, but she does not come over to talk to me. Yeah, she's just match and mirror that. Just be nice, be friendly. Think about it from this perspective. How would you treat her if you were tired of fucking her? If you had another girl who was just as pretty, if not prettier, had a better body, better attitude, and she was enthusiastic, you're going to spend time with her and you're going to forget about this girl. You'll be nice, you'll be polite, you don't want to hurt her feelings, but you're not going to go out of your way to talk to her. If you see her, yeah, you'll wave to her across the gym, but you're not going to go over and talk to her to say hello. Because again, if you're tired of fucking her, you're not going to go talk to her or go out of your way to talk to her because you don't want to give her the impression that you still want to see her because you're having so much fun with somebody else. I had mentioned something earlier about living in the present moment, and she mentioned that she and her friends tended to live in the past. Should I just let the kitty cat roam and assume she went back to an ex? It just seems very sudden. I would say if I was a betting man, that's probably exactly what happened, was that she went back to whoever it was that she was dating before you. And I think he did say that she had been seeing somebody. Or no, I guess he didn't say that. That was the first guy. But like I said, if you just look at her actions and you bottom line her actions, she's behaving like somebody else has her attention now. And you want to match and mirror that. And the fact that she's boring to talk to and she's not exciting on dates, I wouldn't be putting any more effort in. And the problem is this is like the only prospect he has right now. And more than likely, when he started dating her, he stopped asking out other women, and that's part of his problem. That's why if you have lots of choices, you're going to be cockier, you're going to have more swagger, you're going to be more inclined to do things right and give off the right vibe versus if you're only dating this one girl and it's your first real experience with a girl you really like. It's going to be your old programming is you still just have not had enough time with the material and practicing it and implementing it to overcome that. So you're going to tend to revert, and especially if you're dating somebody that makes no effort at all. So if I were you, I wouldn't call or text her again for any reason unless she reaches out to you. When she does reach out, I wouldn't take her out. I wouldn't meet up with her. I'd invite her over to make dinner together and just see how she is. And make her come over, just like what I talk about in 7 Principles Get an Expect. That's what you should be doing. You want to see if she'll come to your place 3 times in a row, but again, she's got to do all the pursuing from this point forward. Because if she's not, then I would just let it go and move on to the next. It's just one girl, dude. I mean, asking out 70 women in a few months, that's great. Do more of that. So if you got a question or challenge and you would like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.